Could you please help this new channel by liking and subscribing? As you see, most of you listening are not subscribing. It will really help the channel grow. Thank you so much. Buying my first house as a newlywed was supposed to start an exciting new chapter. But this dream home held a horrific secret that turned our lives upside down. My wife Lee and I had been hunting for the perfect place to start our lives together. The charming 1950s-style house seemed ideal on first viewings, spacious and move-in ready with a sprawling yard. Sure, there were some strange stains on the basement floor and an earthy damp odor down there, but we chalked it up to poor ventilation and negotiated a lower price to account for replacing the ancient carpet someday. On moving day, I carried the first heavy, dust-covered boxes down the creaky wooden staircase to the dark basement, while Lee happily started unpacking and organizing things upstairs. As I set down a particularly weighty container on the cold concrete basement floor, the impact made the drywall on one wall buckle and crack slightly near the floor. Curious, I grabbed my flashlight and examined the damaged area closer to find a small door that had been cleverly concealed and locked within the wall's paneling. Practically impossible to notice unless the wall was damaged right there. My pulse immediately quickened with excitement, thinking this might lead to a hidden secret room in the basement that the real estate agents had never disclosed to us when we bought the home. This could be like discovering buried treasure. Unable to contain my curiosity, I eagerly called for Lee to come down right away to see this intriguing discovery before I attempted breaking the relatively flimsy padlock on the mystery door with some pliers. The concealed door let out a long, loud creak of protest as we pulled it slowly open together, both holding our breath in suspense. A huge gust of powerfully stale, earthy air immediately rushed out into the basement through the widening crack. Flashlight in my slightly trembling hand, I gingerly descended the impossibly narrow stone steps one by one as they were revealed within the small opening. But Lee's blood-curdling scream from above instantly made my blood turn to ice water in my veins before my brain could even fully register or process what my flashlight beam had illuminated at the bottom of the hidden stairwell. Rusty chains with ominous dark stains hung ominously from the low ceiling, dripping with long-dried blood. Makeshift gurneys and tables that looked fit for torture or dissection took up most of the dirt floor space, also stained a deep reddish-brown in many areas, with various blades, hooks, and other sinister implements still carelessly littered around the scene. The horrific chamber looked like something straight out of a grotesque horror movie set, yet it was disturbingly, undeniably real. My mind reeled in shock and struggled to fully comprehend the full gravity of what we had just uncovered here. Chains hung from the low ceiling, dripping with dried blood. Makeshift torture and dissection tables took up most of the floor, stained reddish-brown, with blades and other implements littered around. The horror movie scene was undeniable, that my mind reeled to comprehend it. We called the police immediately, begging them to come investigate. 2 irritated officers arrived expecting a paranoid overreaction, but emerged ashen-faced from the basement an hour later, confirming it was an active torture chamber concealed cleverly under the house. My skin crawled, wondering how many victims had suffered there while families unsuspectingly lived above. Of course, we demanded the sale be voided, but the agent claimed no knowledge of the sinister secrets, and the seller had already fled the country to somewhere beyond jurisdiction. We were trapped owning this house of horrors. No one would buy it now if we listed it. Staying there was unthinkable. The evil energy permeated the very walls. We opted to abandon the entire place, leaving everything behind, even streaking the gruesome truth across the floors in red paint as a dire warning. We had to hope no one would be foolish enough to ignore the message that profound darkness resided here. Starting over with nothing was still better than sleeping a moment longer above that hellmouth. The nightmares came anyway, visions of those tortured, and the pain imprinted in the very foundation. Personally facing such depravity in a place meant to be safe changes you. We sold our second home preemptively before fully moving in. The memories of strange stains or musty basements provoked panic attacks. Only wide open modern spaces brought relief from imagined horrors waiting behind every corner. Sometimes ignorance of what dwells unseen around us is a blessing. Once Pandora's box has been wrenched open to reveal terrors in plain sight, there is no return to blissful illusion of safety in the mundane. I envy those who never have their peace of mind stolen by stark embodiments of real human darkness. Our old life remains buried forever in that house's cursed bones. Moving into my cozy new house was meant to start fresh after divorce, but the threatening notes that kept appearing drove home the chilling revelation. My safe haven was invaded. That first morning in my new place, I woke up smiling, ready to unpack in sunny rooms that were all mine. No more ghosts of arguments or stifled dreams. I'd found hope again in these rejuvenating walls. Humming, I brought in the newspapers and mail. In my mailbox was a small plain envelope simply addressed to you in jagged writing. Unease prickled as I tore it open. Inside was a brief, ominous note written in letters cut from magazines. This house is not yours. Get out or suffer. I glanced around nervously. Some morbid prank from local kids maybe. Anyone could access the mailboxes outside. Heart pounding, I set the odd threat aside, trying to ignore it. Probably just bored teenagers scaring the new owner. But over the next week, more alarming letters arrived, the messages growing darker. I'm always watching you. No locks key me out. You'll regret staying. Despite trying to hide my fear when outside, each one made my hands tremble. Was the sender truly dangerous or just arranged? I informed the postal service in case they caught someone messing with the mailboxes. But without evidence, police were little help. The law couldn't prevent vague, menacing notes from appearing. I contemplated moving out before things escalated, giving in to the faceless scribe's demands. But stubbornness rooted me here. This was my home now. I refused to relinquish my independence and security so easily. Beefing up security became key to regaining control. I installed cameras, floodlights, a top-notch alarm system. If anyone tried getting inside, I would capture proof to get authorities to act. I just had to buy time until they slipped up. For a while, the high-tech fortress seemed to work. The vile letters ceased after the cameras went in. I could breathe again without that lurking dread following me room to room, until late one night when motion alerts blared from my phone, rousing me from sleep. Grainy footage showed a figure by the mailbox, face obscured, but the invasive threat had returned, maybe escalating now. Racing outside, I was stunned to catch the stalker himself, an average-looking middle-aged man. He denied writing the letters, but fear twisted my gut. He knew where I lived and slept. Simply trailing him here left me exposed to his retaliation. My evidence was too weak for police to detain him. An officer suggested I leave town for a few weeks in case it provoked him further. But letting this phantom chase me away for good seemed as unacceptable as staying put. In the end, refusing to cower in fear proved foolish and dangerous. I awoke one night to a dark silhouette in my bedroom doorway, letters in hand. Instead of fleeing, I had run right into the intruder's trap, as he surely planned all along. The ensuing struggle was brief but brutal as a large gloved hand muffled my screams. But he underestimated his victim. My fury at the invasion overpowered his strength. Pain exploded as we crashed through the second-story window to the concrete together, wrestling violently. By the time police hauled my now injured stalker away, he had terrorized me for weeks within my own supposed safe haven. But his imprisonment finally let me walk freely through my violated home again without that constant crushing weight of fear hanging over me. He took my innocence, but not my ironclad resolve. Now extra locks and lights stay, but they are comforting precautions rather than panicked reactions. I won't be so quick to casually dismiss those uneasy inner feelings again. Instinct is adept at detecting predators, even when they initially hide behind friendly facades. This house remains my sacred space, but maintaining an awareness of darkness dwelling much closer than imagined is the steep price I paid for reclaiming personal strength and security again. I remember the time I moved into a nice Victorian house. It was meant to be a joyful new chapter. But nightmares of the previous residents' mysterious fate suggested a darkness still lurked within these walls. On our first night, sleeping in the quaint master bedroom, the dream came suddenly, frantic screams and crimson splashing the antique wallpaper. I jolted awake panting, disoriented by the chillingly vivid vision. Just stress from the move, I reasoned. But the next night brought more violent visions, angry shouts escalating to flashed images of a body tumbling down the stairs, leaving streaks of dark blood in its wake. I awoke with tears streaming down my face, unable to shake the sense of tragedy and pain embedded in those ghastly scenes. Night after night, increasingly sinister and disturbing dreams continued relentlessly plaguing me whenever I slept in the main bedroom. I soon started actively dreading going to bed, knowing the gruesomely vivid visions awaited me there without fail, robbing me completely of any sense of peace or normal rest. I tossed and turned for hours before succumbing to fitful sleep, then awoke feeling more exhausted than before I had lain down. The identity of the battered, bloodied man haunting me remained a mystery, but I was desperate for answers about who he was and what on earth could have possibly happened to him in this very room to leave such a potent psychic imprint. The constant gnawing unease, uncertainty, and graphic night terrors were all-consuming. I felt myself unraveling day by day. Feeling a sense of helpless desperation take hold, I decided researching the home's history and previous residents was the only potential route forward to finding some clues that might explain the disturbing phenomena plaguing me since move-in day. Unfortunately, online records and documents about the property were extraordinarily scarce. But slowly, through carefully digging through archived town records, I finally discovered one rather intriguing detail. The kindly elderly couple who had owned and lived in this house for over 40 quiet, uneventful years had made the abrupt decision to sell and move out suddenly under rather mysterious, unexplained circumstances, shortly before then tragically passing away within months of each other. Even more chilling, the wife then died of vague, ongoing health issues, quite soon after their hasty exit, according to her cryptic obituary. It didn't take jumping to conclusions for my blood to instantaneously run cold reading between the ominous lines of what little information I had unearthed. The peculiar timing and details suggested almost conclusively that whatever deeply traumatic event or scene had befallen the weakened, sickly wife likely occurred inside the bedroom of this very home during the strange final period of their residence here. Her immense suffering and pain in those final days must have energetically imprinted itself indelibly onto the fabric of the room, permeating my unconscious mind and releasing long-suppressed memories and visions nightly as history repeated itself when I unknowingly slept in the precise spot where her agonizing tragedy had transpired years before. My blood ran cold reading between the lines. The timing suggested whatever had befallen the sickly wife likely happened inside this very bedroom. Her lingering agony was permeating my subconscious, releasing suppressed memories as they relived each night. I dug deeper, contacting the couple's surviving children. They seemed uneasy at my probing questions, confirming only that the decision to move came abruptly. The wife had not been well but refused care, growing frail and bedridden. They preferred not remembering the stress of that period. Not the answer I hoped for, but enough to solidify my suspicions. Whatever happened in that room, her suffering had imprinted itself indelibly. Each nightmare felt like a suppressed cry for help or justice. Even if no foul play occurred, violence and pain energetically lingered in those four walls, seeping into my psyche against my will. I had two choices: flee this home and the psychic residue haunting its bones, or find a way to release the trapped spirit pleading for peace. Abandoning the house felt cowardly, giving negativity dominion. I decided to stay and fight. Sage, crystals, smudging, every cleansing ritual in my metaphysical arsenal was employed to purge the heavy energy. At night, I spoke soothingly to the presence, encouraging it toward the light, while visualizing myself sealed in protective white aura. The nightmares gradually faded in frequency and intensity as I reclaimed sovereignty over the atmosphere. A month later, they ceased completely. My methods seemed to finally allow the wife's tormented soul to move on and bring balance back to the home. I'll never know the full truth of what happened in this room, but freeing it from the choking grip of the past broke the cycle. Thank you all for listening in. If you haven't already, then please like and subscribe and help this new channel grow. It's free and means a lot.